Best Ball Mania 5 is here. First Monday night stream on Spike Week. We're going to dive into a little bit of the things we're trying to attack in these early drafts. Myself, Erik Beimfohr, and Rob Coakley. A couple things we're trying to implement in these super, super early Best Ball Mania 5 drafts. And then we're going to do the fun thing. We're going to draft the team. Let's do it.
3, 2, 1. Liftoff.
Rob, it's been a minute since you and I have been able to get together for a draft stream. I'm excited about it. I'm particularly excited because we're here. We made it to the main part of the best ball season. Drafters Championship launched yesterday, Best Ball Mania, and now a bunch of other tournaments on Underdog launched today. Super pumped for that. But also, we obviously talk a lot throughout the course of the whole calendar. But we haven't really had, you and I, much actual discussion about, like, okay, what are we going to try to do? Like, what's the thing we're going to go try to attack when Best Ball Mania and when these tournaments open? So I'm curious. I'm looking forward to having that conversation with you about the things that you're trying to implement, like literally, today, tomorrow, this week, before the field starts to kind of catch up, or not even just the field catching up, but like, what's the thing that you feel the best about, doing in these drafts right now? As, like, let's be honest, we're all figuring this out. Like, there's not a person on the planet that knows 100% what their strategy is for the whole summer. So, like, how do we get into it, I think, is a good conversation.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, yesterday we had drafters drop their championship. Today, Underdog comes in. They drop the big dog. They drop the eliminator, BBM5, with one of the best payout structures we've ever seen. Today, I also saw a man walking down the street wearing ankle shorts. It is officially hot best ball summer. We are ready to go. It is time to start drafting teams. I'm hyped.
You want to know what I saw that was peculiar today? So I do the show earlier. If you missed it, or you have a job like most people do, you can't watch YouTube's best ball streams at noon. When they launched BBM, I did a show, and it was actually really, really good. A bunch of people, there was a delay in the drop of Best Ball Mania, about an hour or so. So we hung out for an hour and kind of talked about maybe some things Rob and I will talk about. But, so the plan was just to get on, talk a little bit, pop in a draft. It's day one. We're all just excited to draft, right? And so naturally that took like 2 hours, and then I had some more work to do. After that. And then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take the dogs on a nice extra long walk. And I live outside of St. Louis so I live in like a suburb neighborhood.
127 Forest Green Drive.
Yes, exactly. 100%. My road is called Marbleton Circle.
I was joking. Don't dox yourself.
I know, it's okay. I don't really mind. But it is the epitome. All the roads are exactly that. Like you said, the epitome of what you would think a suburban, shitty neighborhood would be. But anyway, so I take the dogs on a long walk. We are kind of in a funny spot where there is like a little bit of wooded areas around, but like it's not like I'm in the middle, of the boonies or whatever. But so we're in my neighborhood, and there's like this small little wooded area over here, and then kind of a little deeper woodsy area. But it's like small patches around my neighborhood. I'm walking dead center through the middle of my neighborhood, and all of a sudden I see, like, maybe 20 feet in front of me, a fox with what appeared to be like a rabbit or something in its mouth, just book it from one woods to the other woods out in front of me. I stopped, and my dog stops and even looks back at me like, what the hell was that? And so that was my excitement for today. Yeah,
that's a bad omen for your best ball summer. You're gonna go broke.
You got to see some good looking dude in some ankle pants, and I'm watching evolution play itself out in front of me, in probably not, like you said, maybe a damning way.
Listen, no good looking person has ever worn ankle shorts, is what I'm gonna say. It's true. It's a choice, but that's a bad omen. You have reached a bad omen. So everything that Erik tells you to do, in this best ball summer. You should probably do the opposite. He was sent an omen by the best ball gods in the form of a rabbit being carried across.
This is your best ball season. This is what it's going to look like.
Yes. So do the reverse. Once he says something, you zag. Just absolutely zag. It's been foretold. It is known.
Early running backs are back, which is a perfect segue probably into Rob's strategies. Zero RB is dead. Early running backs are back. Late round tight end is back. All the things that I like are dead. But just super quickly, quick housekeeping, because there's a good question from Johnny in the chat. Obviously, if it's your first time here, we're going to talk strategy and best ball content and do tons of drafts over the course of the summer. But what we do, of course, is tools. We have our Draft Hacker and Draft IQ, kind of our bread and butter on the site. There's links to those in the description. And yes, Johnny asked, are they mobile friendly? We actually, Draft IQ is beautifully mobile friendly. We upgraded that over the offseason, and it is awesome. And we even implemented a mobile version of the Draft Hacker. So you, maybe not today, because it's like day one, the Draft Hacker isn't super useful when you haven't drafted any teams yet. But as you know, as that goes on, you'll see on our shows the Draft Hacker in use, and you can do it from a mobile version as well. It won't overlay directly onto your Underdog app, but it can be kind of a companion on your phone if you want to use to be able to see your exposures and player combinations and week 17 schedules when that's out. So you can get a link to that in the description. I'm actually really excited and proud, frankly, of the mobile updates that were done over the summer for all of the stuff, because it is absolutely amazing. Even the Almanac, the other thing I wanted to shout out, our rankings are live. Shout out to me. I stayed up late to finish those rankings last night for you guys, just in time to go to bed, and then Zeke to get signed to the Cowboys to have to make a change immediately on day one. Have to make a change, but the rankings are up there. And I'm working on kind of some of the things we might talk about here in terms of things I'm attacking right now, things I'm seeing in the market right now. And B Kurt, our guy B Kurt, posted just today a review of the Drafters Championship and some really good takeaways. I highly, highly recommend all of that. And basically all of our strategy content, rankings, tons of different stuff is all in the Best Ball Almanac. A link to that in the description as well. Buy it once, you have it until the end of the calendar year, and you're all set. But before we hop into this draft, just a couple of minutes, I did want to hear and pick Rob's brain a little bit about, and I can set you up. Before the show, we were talking about some things that we're trying to attack in drafts right now, because we probably don't have it all figured out. We have the guys that we probably think we like or whatever strategies we like, but you evolve that over the summer, right? And Rob said something that I thought was really, really good about maybe more so some things he knows he doesn't want to do, which is kind of not how you see a lot of people think about it, right? They come in, they're like, I got to target this guy. And frankly, I do this. I talked about this on the show earlier today. I want to do this. I want to target this guy. I want to, attack this ADP value or this closing line value or whatever. And you were kind of framing it in a different way that I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. So for me, I'm starting with the first round. That is my first goal, is to implement what I want to do with the first round. And that involves my fades, right? So I know not everybody's going to tell you to fade players and do what you're comfortable with and all that. But for me, I'm going to have a hard fade on Tyreek Hill this year and on CMC. And I'm still coin tossing what I want to do with CeeDee Lamb. I think I'm probably still going to draft him around the 8% mark is probably where I'm leaning with him. But I want to pull Bijan up. I want to pull Jamar Chase up. I want to pull Justin Jefferson up. I'd rather have shots on goal with those three guys personally, for multiple reasons. Age being a factor with Tyreek Hill. We saw production drop off towards the end of the season with him last year. He's an absolute freak, right? Like, there's no taking away from Tyreek Hill. And CMC, absolute god tier, right? Like, these are god tier level players, but I'm comfortable fading them this year for a few different reasons, including those that I just gave. I'd rather bet on the younger guys in the first round, who I think they're all kind of, at maximum value, they're all the same type of unicorn players that can just absolutely crush. So I'm going to do it with the younger guys. I'm going to do it with Jamar Chase, who I think has all the upside to be the wide receiver 1 this year. I think Bijan's going to be the RB1, and I think it's not going to be close personally this year. I think that the 49ers are going to implement some different things to kind of not destroy CMC this year and give him 8,000 touches. I mean, these are all I'm hyperbolic, right? Like I have no inside information on that or anything, but I think that establishing the 2 guys that I want to fade, maybe the third, allows me to bring those guys up. But not only does it allow me to bring those guys up, it allows me, when I finally feel comfortable with some of the later first round picks, bringing them up as well and flipping the board, which is like my big thing. It's like, if you can flip the board and get some different builds, Amon-Ra was my guy last year for that. If we remember, I had 8% Amon-Ra, but my 8% Amon-Ra, which didn't matter because everyone had him paired with CeeDee Lamb, right? So it made me look like the idiot, but my Amon-Ra teams were different than everybody else's teams. So I like finding a way to get slightly different while not going absolutely insane, although some people might think that fading CMC and Tyreek is going to be insanity this year.
Well, I can tell you from someone who's floated the idea of fade. I didn't even say a word about fading CMC. As a matter of fact, I just updated the rankings and he's third and not first. And everybody was like, oh, so you think you have to fade Christian McCaffrey this year? And I was like, no, it's just that, like, if I had the 101 in one draft, I would personally take CeeDee Lamb. That's my preference. But having also thought through the CMC thing, I think there's a ton. I don't want to dive too deep into the specifics of either of those fades, but I think that there's some interesting merits to that. CMC can be also like positional. I think the age thing is 100% factual, and people don't like to hear the age talk because it's one of those things that it's the unknown, right? Where like we haven't seen fall off from the player, so I can't envision fall off happening yet. We always assume that it happens, and there's evidence that it will happen first, and that's just not how it works. And it's hard, like, and it's hard to like use that as like a selling fact, too, where it's like,
right.
The human brain kind of doesn't work that way. It's like, I need to see evidence of something before I can factor it into my process. But in reality, we've seen evidence across like, just like life, right? And football players, as you age, it just happens. And it doesn't always have to be, from week 8 on last year, his efficiency cratered or whatever. It's like that. Sometimes that can be an indicator, but also sometimes it can be nothing. And I'm thinking about that from like a Devontae Adams this year. People are burying him because some efficiency got a little bit worse last year, when to me he seemed just as good as ever. So I'm not burying him, but nonetheless, I think the age thing is a really interesting angle to take on the first round. And I particularly, as I was thinking through kind of what you were talking, and I know you like to take some of those harder stances in the first round, and particularly some more unique stances in the first round, which I like and appreciate. Even though I don't always, quite frankly, do them, I like thinking it through. And when you were saying it, I'm thinking about the second round and really the third round.
Yeah.
And that I think is where it actually becomes the most interesting, in that if anybody, and I talked through this a lot in the show earlier today too. So Marvin Harrison is going to be the last pick in the first round. Okay. By the end, by if he's not by Wednesday in ADP, it will be soon. In my opinion, maybe he's the 201. Okay. But whatever. I think there's a fairly clear top 11 in terms of market consensus, right? Once you get to AJ Brown or Garrett Wilson, whichever you order, AJ Brown and Garrett Wilson and Puka, there's an 11 that I think the market's like, yep, okay, we're good, right? Once I get to that guy, I'm cool. But then it's like Gibbs, JT, Marvin Harrison, Drake London. Like people are like, I don't think I could take Marvin Harrison in the first round. Okay, you're going to take Drake London? Does Drake London make you feel any better in the first round? No. Does XYZ make you feel? Do you want to take Achane in the first round? No. So that spot from there on for like 2.5 rounds is a bunch of guys who you can tell yourself a story are great, and you can nitpick the issues, right? There's 2 49ers wide receivers, and their running back goes 1-on-1 in that pocket of the draft, right? I mentioned Devontae Adams getting older. What do we think about the Raiders? And they drafted Brock Bowers, Drake London. Rumors. Yeah. And these I don't. The one guy who I saw post the Devontae Adams trade rumors has 600 followers, so I'm gonna pump the brakes on that, but it's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. 3 Texans wide receivers, right? The Texans went from nobody wanted any of these guys to 3 Texans wide receivers in the top 4 rounds.
Yeah.
Evans, Pittman, Neighbors, like there's all these guys, and I kind of like all of them, but then I also kind of like don't want to flag plant any of them. You know what I mean? Like, and then that's what I was getting at is like, how do I get the requisite combos of my first round players? Because I pretty much agree with the top 11 or even 12. But then, like, if I don't care really about which second round wide receiver I get, I then don't want to be like overweight on, like, I don't want to just be overweight on Brandon Ayuk because it just happens.
Yes.
I want to do it in a certain way. And so then you start thinking it through and you're like, well, how do I get a certain, right? I want a certain number of Jamar Chase and Malik Neighbors. It's like, okay, well, I got to massage that now. So who comes down? Right. It's like, well, I don't really want to be way overweight on Debo just because. So who's coming down? Right. And if it's not going to be the guys that go next to them, it has to be someone in front of them being the first round. So then I have to start removing from the first round. It's this weird, exercise you start doing in your head where you're like, if I don't want to take an unnecessary stand on this ginormous tier in the second, third round, that I think that they're all fine, it's got to come from somewhere. Otherwise, I'm just drafting 8% of everybody and I'm not doing anything, which some people will say that's fine, but that's not how I like to play the game. So I thought it was a pretty interesting angle in terms of like putting together your portfolio where like you can see the perks of CMC and Tyreek just like any of us can, but like, how do I manipulate kind of the market in certain areas where I think there might be an edge to be had? And if I don't think there's an edge in Debo versus Ayuk versus Nico Collins versus Tank Dell or whatever, then I don't want to take that stand for no reason.
Well, the fascinating thing, and you notice how I use fascinating instead of interesting, it's because I'm a professional, right? Everyone uses the word interesting.
Now I say fascinating all the time. I started doing that too, where I'm like, this one's so fascinating, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I say fascinating on every show now instead of interesting.
I broke Kareem's brain, I think, last year when I told him to watch himself every time he says interesting, and not just him in general. And it doesn't matter what content you listen to. That is just such a crutch word that I use all the time. So I try to. The fascinating thing that you just brought up, Eric, is that when you do it in the first round, it is always intentional, right? No matter what, when you are fading a player in the first round, it is always intentional. Once you get to the second round and beyond, your fades are sometimes unintentional. We've talked about this before. You do 40 drafts, you look back, you're like, holy shit, how do I only have 2% of this guy? Or how did I get up to 22% of this guy that I don't really love? And it's because they are unintentional. So your point is completely the way that you need to be looking at this, where you're playing it from an intentional perspective, right? Like, I intentionally want to be 16% of this guy, double the field, 12%, 18%, whatever number or caveat you put on it. I want to intentionally fade this guy, understanding it. You can't do it for every player, but you can go round by round and kind of say, I like this player, I like this position in this round.
Yes.
All the time. Right. So 5th round, I was looking at my 5th round exposures from the big board stuff, and there was people that I was fading because I just didn't like the position in that particular round. So I wasn't getting any of those guys, not because I didn't like them, but because I liked going with, I don't even remember, say I liked going quarterback all the time in the 5th round, or, quarterback and tight end, which sounds right because of the Mark Andrews stuff. There's that.
ADP to just kind of show, because I have some thoughts on exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So that is, it's being intentional and trying. And once you're intentional with some other guys, everything else will kind of fall into place, but always checking. And that's what the Draft IQ and the Draft Hacker is perfect for, is you can see who you have as you draft and making sure that you're making these intentional stands and not creating some crazy unintentional stands while you're doing it, if that's something you don't want to do. So that's the way I also like to play the game. The first round fade thing, I just look at it like this. I mean, sometimes, Occam's razor, what's the easiest solution? Easiest solution, let's just say that the top 5 guys are top 6 guys this year, actually. They all have single game upside, unlike pretty much anybody else. So why don't I just cut that in half and double up on those players and give myself a better chance of getting one of those 3 guys into the finals to get one of those explosion games, right? And if I lose, I lose. Like, I mean, if I lose, I lose. But if I have double the chance to get a Jamar Chase team in, double the chance to get a Bijan Robinson team, double the chance to get a Justin Jefferson team in against the field or more, then I'm going to take that shot. Like, I will take that shot. And if I lose, I lose. Guess what? Some years I'm going to win. So we won't start. Go ahead.
And no, sorry. I was just going to say, and when you're doing it with the older players, there's just a general merit. And I'll preface this by saying, like, everything is different in price and situation. Every player has like 100 variables you factor into whether you draft them. It's never just age. And sometimes even myself jokingly, it will come off as though, oh, you just only like the young guys. And this year people are going to think I've been drugged or kidnapped or something, because I do like a lot more older guys than normal. But right, when you have a running back who is older and who has about 7.6 million touches, the last I counted, over the last 3 years for Christian McCaffrey, and has played into the Super Bowl and conference championship, right? It reminds me of, people talk about this in basketball all the time, and so NBA playoffs are on right now, and teams will make a run to the finals, right? Which is like multiple more months of basketball that you play. God forbid you play 7 games in any of these series. You play a third of a season more in the playoffs. And then these guys will go play. This is about to happen. And then these guys will go play in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Right. Over the summer. And then they get like 3 weeks off. And then, oh, by the way, it's training camp. And you will see teams ease back on those guys the next season, because it's like, you just had an extra whole season of wear and tear during the playoffs and the Olympics.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that's going to happen with Christian McCaffrey, but I have brought it up a few times as well. And people seem very hesitant to even like factor that in. And I do think it should be something that should be at least like you can just say, I still want to draft CMC because he's CMC. And I think that's fine. Like, that's totally fine. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of the times people will, instead of taking in information and just saying, no, I accept it, it's a possible, downside thing or upside thing, they'll like reject it instead of being like, you can factor it in and say it's not. I still think all the positives outweigh that outweigh the age, outweigh the potential that they do. They just brought in more running backs, by the way. They just brought in more running backs. And the mileage concerns, you can say like, I get it, but the upside's too much. And I'd be like, fine. But I think that these are important things to be brought up. And then before we hop in this draft, we'll hit a couple questions because there's some good ones. And then I wanted to touch this because you said there can also be pockets of the draft where guys can end up being fades, or certainly, underweight stances, soft fades, as some people like to call them, which is just the worst. Yeah, I mean, if anybody says soft fade to me, there's going to be an inappropriate joke probably soon there following, but also like grow a pair, no pun intended, but like that is just ridiculous. Draft the guy or don't draft the guy. I don't know what that means. You're fading him, but it's not hard. It's soft. Like, fucking stop it. Like,
well, actually, Eric, I would just like to have 2% of this player just for the variance outside.
Yeah, just in case. It's like, just in case.
Just in case you just ruined your portfolio.
Yeah, 2 fucking teams was worth it. Like, anyway, soft fade. Yeah, so ridiculous. I like to call it the flaccid fade. If we're like, let's just lean into it if we're gonna go all the way. But there's spots where some of that can happen naturally, and that's okay. And I like to think about, like, kind of honestly, if we scroll to probably like Ken Walker, but really like even Ridley and Brian Thomas. I'm not a big Brian Thomas fan, but I can certainly understand some appeal. Like Addison, Deontay Johnson, Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, right there. There'll be pockets here where I'm like, I like these quarterbacks. I like these tight ends. And then we're going to get into my sweet spot of running backs in like the 80s where I'm like, okay, not so much Connor anymore, but Montgomery, Mostert, Ramondre, Pollard a little bit, Najee, Swift, Warren, Benson, Zamir. It's like all those guys. I'm like, I want all of them. Yeah. I'm not sacrificing them to get Deontay Johnson. Like, I'm just not doing it. And I partially hate Deontay Johnson, but let's just say I didn't hate Deontay Johnson. I would still say if Deontay Johnson is the guy you need, I lose, because I'm trying to, this pocket of running backs is one of the biggest edges, in my opinion, in drafts right now. And I want all these guys. And I can't have them all on the same team. So I got to figure out ways. Of course, we can do the pull them up stuff. We'll talk about all that later. But like, I want to take that stand on this pocket of running backs. And so there's going to be downside or downstream impacts that happen there. And it will be that I just won't get some of those other guys. So there's a lot of different ways. We kind of went around a bunch of different ways of how things can happen in terms of stands and such. But I think that that's important, like understanding why a stand is happening, because it can. I want to limit the amount of stands that happen without my knowing and without my intent.
Yes.
That's my whole goal is. And so it like you said, if a first round fade has to happen so that these running backs here in this 8th round don't get sacrificed to some BS, thing in my portfolio that I didn't want, then so be it. But I don't want it to be like I flip over the cards in September and I got 2% Jalen Warren, and I have 0 Jalen Warren teams with CeeDee Lamb, and CeeDee Lamb's my 101. Like I don't want that to ever be the case. I'm using an extreme example. It's very unlikely that happens. But you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Like even Najee. I fucking drafted Najee earlier today on the stream. It's like, why, if I like this guy at his price, and that pocket of the draft, the running backs is, I think, the pocket. I don't want to flip over the cards in September and be like, why is there no Justin Jefferson and Chase Brown together? Why is there no Jamar Chase and Zach Moss together? Whatever. And like that can happen if you're not intentional about things and you're just kind of letting it all flow. So that's a huge focus for me this summer.
Yeah. And we also know that Arthur Smith isn't going to have a soft fade on Najee Harris. So there's that as well.
I don't think a soft fade on Najee Harris is possible. All right. Couple of quick comments. Let's see. Vadim says, noticed in the ranks that you're actually super high on Keenan and super low on Odunze. I can answer this, of course, because I do them. And after it being the reverse pre-draft, can you explain the thought process behind the rank? Yeah. Landing spot.
3 letters.
Yeah. It is. I mean, I'm really high on Rome as a long-term bet. It's just this, and people are doing the stupid, and I don't want to even too much acknowledge this, doing the JSN comp from last year, but it is not that, because DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are not DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. DJ Moore and Keenan Allen are two of the most elite target dominant wide receivers in the game. And I just don't know how, I can't figure out a way to make the math work where Rome is aside from an injury, which is why he's even still 70th overall or something like that. Aside from an injury, I just can't figure out how to make it work to where we're talking about two superstar wide receivers. This isn't like I said, this isn't Metcalf and Lockett, who are both very good, but neither of those guys were commanding 35% target shares at any point in their entire careers. DJ Moore and Keenan Allen been doing that for years. So it's just with a rookie quarterback, and I really like Caleb. I kind of just made the stance of I'm going to take the two guys who are superstars right now, and I'll buy Rome if the discount gets there, and I'll buy Rome in my dynasty leagues or something. It's just again, you can't have everybody. I just prefer those other two guys.
Yeah, and then we have this comment as well from the consigliere saying that soft fading before round 10 feels like it has to happen. You have less than 8% on some of those guys inevitably. It's yes, you will. It's the intentional soft fade, right? That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about you're obviously going to have a plethora of different percentage ownership on players. It's intentionally being I want 2% or 4% of this guy. It's limiting doing things unintentionally. So
100%.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's yeah, you're going to get 4%, but if there's a guy I know I don't like, I'm not going to draft him just to draft him, right? We talk about this every year where we'll see a guy fall 3 rounds and I still won't draft him because he just doesn't fit into my portfolio. It doesn't matter how far down he falls. If I have a hard stand against him, I have a hard stand against him. So it's just trying to limit the unintentional and being more intentional about what you're doing, which you cannot do for everybody. We've already established that. It's understanding why you're doing what you're doing and trying to make sure that that fits within your overall portfolio structure that you're trying to create.
Yeah, and to be clear, I was just making fun of like the premise of somebody coming in and saying like I'm soft fading Rome Odunze. It's like I don't even know what that means. Like I don't. I like. Are you like him, or does that mean you don't like him, but you're still drafting him, which in turn means nothing? That's just fucking word salad. Like that. I'm
Well,
soft
Eric,
fading
I'll
this.
only draft him if he falls 6 picks past ADP, and that is my hard line stand. It's just like,
so you're
okay.
drafting him a lot then, right?
Yeah.
Right? Then it's I just don't know what that means. I think it's people trying to say things that they're like, it sounds good. It's like, it sounds like you're like really advanced or something, but like I think we talk about things. We probably have just been for a half hour talking about things that are like actually maybe a little more advanced, and some people would say galaxy brain from like a best ball perspective. But I'm like a really simplistic type person. I believe in like the mom test and like shooting straight and stuff. Like if I can't explain it to my mom, like I don't know it well enough, or like why are we talking about it? You know what I mean? We're talking about fucking fantasy football, man. This ain't rocket science. Like we're not solving world hunger. Like soft fade, like you like him or you don't. Let's just be honest about the situation.
We should. Never mind. I'm not going to say it out loud because someone else will steal it from me. Disregard. Yeah. We're doing I was going to jump on mine, Eric.
Oh, all right. You got next week. Right. I didn't want to take Bijan, so that's what I took.
I was actually home. I'm ready to draft. I have my screen pulled up.
What did we get? Okay. Oh, fuck. Okay. So can I be totally honest with you? I've been toying with I know you're going to want to push for Bijan. I've been toying with the idea of legitimately drafting only 0 running back teams in best ball.
Do your thing. This is why we
I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to ruin that. If I change my mind down the road and I decide, no, I still want to go get my Bijan or whatever, but I'm toying with the idea of 150 0 running back teams in Best Ball Mania. For I think it would be interesting content and like an interesting thing to study in the off season, but also because I think if I'm on this, as everyone has known now, this like Moneyball kick type thing, but also they just have a lot of really good phrases in that movie and the book. And in the movie, there's this awesome scene where they're going to, the coach, the manager keeps starting Carlos Pena, right? And they want to start Scott Hatteberg. And like they're trying to figure out how the hell to get him to put Hatteberg in, and he won't do it. And so Billy Bean, Brad Pitt says, well, let's trade him. Let's trade Carlos Pena. And Jonah Hill's like, Billy, Carlos Pena, he's an all-star, he's a blah, blah, blah. You can't trade him, like you're going to get fired. And he looks at Jonah Hill and he says, do you fucking believe in this thing or not? Type of a situation. And I'm like, I have all these takes and I have all these like hard opinions that I think are edges, and it's mostly structural shit like 0 running back. And I'm like, but I look myself in the mirror and then I got like 14% Bijan, and it's like, did you really believe in zero running back or not? Like, so I'm toying with that idea as for this summer.
The funny thing is I wholeheartedly believe in, look at that. Look at the fantasy gods giving you a gift.
What's your name there, sir? Send me your email. I'll give you a free month. I'll give you a free month.
God. So I actually fully believe in 0 RB this year, but my 2 outliers are I'm still going to draft Breece Hall. Oh my God.
Look at this.
106 Jamar Chase. Why can't we be on my account? I'm not going to give
this is beautiful.
106 Jamar Chase all year.
See, I told you that Fox was a good sign. I told you that Fox was a good
sign.
Oh,
no, this means Jamar Chase is going to be dead this year.
No, this means I was the Fox and all these fuckers were that mouse that he had in his mouth.
This is great. I'll take this start. 106.
This is awesome. Consigliere, we know that you were fucking around. I don't take anything. There's only a couple people. There was a couple people that would get angry in the chat maybe last year, but I think we ran them off at some point in time. But it is true. I do think Rob and I both, and a lot of the people around here, it is. I don't mean this. I respect tons of people. I do shows with all these other people. I just think we all kind of have different approaches. And Rob and I individually have different approaches from one another. But in terms of approaching the game, we do it very differently than how a lot of other people do it. So, that's not going to be for everybody. But I do think we're constantly thinking about ways to attack it, to like, how do I create, I always like to call it like, how do I create the cleanest path to first place? Like, what's the limit the amount of things that I have to get right. And then boom, I get those 3 things right. And the floodgates just open and I have a really good shot to win a bunch of money. That's kind of how I'm always thinking about it. And zero RB has always been like that one. And I talk about it as being that one. And I haven't, like I said, like acted on that belief as strongly as I think I should have.
I also think that we approach it more so from a not a full DFS angle, but we pull more DFS elements than other people. Like we're looking at it as a 150 team slate, that you have, and it's, well, when you do that, you want to be overweight on certain players, right? Like that's the game of DFS. You're not mincing your exposures when you're doing 150 entries in a DFS tournament. So that's kind of the way I look at it as well.
And then even the DFS bros that will come over into best ball, they will so they would take a projection and they on a DFS slate and then match it with a price, and they would say this player is do you also like Devontae similar to what I do? I know you were not as much on him last year, or do you have one of these second round guys? Because I'm curious on your.
I like Ayuk. I like Nico. I mean, I like them all.
I would like to do Nico actually, because I was gonna float Nico anyway.
I think Nico is going to be the Texan you want.
I have it. I'm pretty sure I think I wrote about it too in the almanac. I think I did Nico, Tank, Diggs is how I ranked. That's definitely how I have them ranked in the rankings. But I think I walked through it just seems like the writing is on the wall for Nico to be like the quintessential wide receiver one. Tank is like the 1B, and then Diggs is like it's not even I'm not trying to knock Diggs. I think he's still good, but in terms of Diggs is more of the ancillary veteran who's he'll have his big games, but he's this. I can't think of a good comp. A souped up Brandon Cooks from last year, where it was CD's show. Yeah. It was CD's show, maybe a little Ferguson on the side or something. But then you would get those times where it's oh wow, Cooks just went 6 for 101 or something like that. I Diggs is going to have those games, but I think the offense is Nico and Tanks, if that makes sense.
No, I mean that's fair. Did we hear any more? I didn't look today. Did we get any more info on the Tank injury from yesterday?
No, he's got released. It's a flesh wound, I think. Cue up your Monty Python. It was just a flesh wound, but that was a little scary when I got that push alert come across my.
Yeah, it was. You had to read it 3 times.
Yes.
Yeah, that was insanity.
I like it. I like to take Paulino, Tank Dell, wide receiver 1. Also, if you're into narrative-based things, CJ Stroud did the interview or whatever it was the other day, and they asked him to pick his dream team of wide receivers, and he did not pick Nico. He did not pick Steph Diggs. He picked Tank Dell.
How do we not take DJ Moore? How do we not take DJ Moore?
Oh, DJ Moore falling, huh? That's surprising.
Hells yeah.
That's beautiful. This is nice.
Give me all the DJ Moore. Give me this, dude. I want this to be my team. What are we doing here? How
what is this? Get this? What is this room? Oh, Derrick Henry went in the second round. Okay. Old man game. Old man game took CeeDee Lamb, but then doubles back for Derrick Henry and Travis Etienne. That is the new version.
Unique.
That is the new version of the old man. Is he's willing enough to be okay, I'll take CeeDee Lamb, but now I feel uncomfortable at running back because I didn't take one in the first round. I got to go get Derrick Henry. I got to have Derrick Henry on this team.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it. We got Jamar Chase falling. We got DJ Moore falling. If this isn't on my account, I'm going to cry myself to sleep tonight. I'm never going to see this team. I'm never going to get a Jamar Chase, Nico, DJ Moore team.
Good question from the other Zach. Actually, his username, great name. If everyone agrees that the rookie running backs are not that great and the rookie wide receiver class is really deep, how come everyone is so dedicated to zero RB when it just seems the late rounds have fewer chances to hit? So it's a great question because, a hacker mentions this first, is that veterans, this is really the epitome of it. I'll actually start with your rookie thing first. There are still going to be rookies that come through, no matter what we think about this class. It doesn't matter. Kyron Williams was not thought of as a superstar. right? Like it's not always the guys that everybody says, oh yeah, because when it's Bijan, like Bijan went in the first round. When the running back class is viewed as really good, they're not zero running back candidates. They go in the first few rounds, right? Brees went in the 4th or the 5th. ETN went in the 3rd or whatever. When Gibbs went in the 3rd, when the class is really good, that doesn't really impact zero running back. So I think the class actually kind of fits zero running back. Brooks is the first rookie running back, and he goes in the 120s. But then it's really not because of the young running backs, if I'm being totally honest with you. It's because of some of the range that I was mentioning before. You can get down into the 70s and get starting borderline workhorse running backs on good offenses, or like committee backs like David Montgomery, James Conner, Mostert, right? You can get guys splitting time. Najee and Warren both go here. Swift, right? Trey Benson and Conner both go here. And then you can get lead backs. Zamir White, pick 100, right? Devin Singletary, like pick 120 or whatever. The Bengals running backs, both of them outside of the top 100. Like it's that. It's the depth of the middle tier of running back is as good as it is, probably the best it's ever been in fantasy.
Yeah, we're on the clock here.
What do you think? Have you been taking? I know you like the Chiefs. Have you been taking Kelsey?
Very rarely. I don't hate Lamar here.
I was gonna say Lamar, Higgins, Rashi.
Yeah, I like Lamar. I think.
Let's do Lamar.
I
love Lamar.
With the start we have, I really like Lamar. What is Gotham doing?
What? Oh, that's him. That noise. That's hilarious. Oh man,
he never does anything.
Yeah. Other Zach says anchor wide receiver, and that guy old man game thought that this is zero running back, right? I heard somebody say zero running back is the new thing, and he didn't draft one in the first round, so he said, nailed it. Nailed it.
We don't get Gotham on stream much, so here he is, the terror.
I know we don't. He's always sleeping every time.
Always.
Mine are either sleeping or zoomies around.
Yeah.
There's no in between. They're not like moseying around the back.
All right, so we got this Lamar team.
What do you think about? We'll see if he goes, but what are your feelings on Zay Flowers? Because I think he's going to be a natural stacking partner with Lamar here. I kind of think he's overpriced a little bit.
He's definitely overpriced.
He goes to old man game. What is this guy doing? What is this team? CD, Derrick Henry, ETN, James Cook. This guy read Billy's stack, baby. This guy read Billy's article about mixing and matching player types or whatever with it. Draft a zero RB team, but not with the zero RB bros.
Mark Andrews, bro. How do we don't? How do we not?
100%. I think if I could get one combination, if you forced me, here's a question for you. If you were forced to take one player combination on all 150 of your best Ball Mania teams, who would it be, and why is it not Lamar Andrews?
Yeah, it's tough to not make it Lamar with Mark Andrews, especially since you can do it so easily right now. I mean, 4th, 5th round, that's going to be one where I'm going to probably be overweight on that combo.
Me too.
And not lose. Feel bad about it.
What I will say, I'm going to figure out what I need to figure out sooner rather than later, because I didn't figure it out sooner rather than later last year, of what and maybe it's I'm not changing, but what I want to do with Isaiah Likely this year, because I'm not saying it would have changed anything for me. Maybe it would have. I don't know. I'm not saying it would have changed anything for me, but I like this combo, right? I get known for most of the weird guys that I flag plant, like Damian Harris and Sam Howell and Cole Turner and all that shit. But Lamar Andrews is probably my actual flag plant was like Ravens, Lamar, and Andrews. I was like, just give me this, because if I can get what I think could be the tight end one, certainly has tight end one ceiling every single week with a running quarterback and an elite offense and like possibly the quarterback one. It was just such a clean pairing between those guys while everybody else is doing their quarterbacks, wide receiver stacks and whatever. It just felt so strong to me, and all it did was get cheaper. Now it's just cheaper, so it's really hard for me to turn down that stack.
Do we want to get Galaxy brained on stream 1 of Best Ball Summer.
I mean, well, look at the background of the show, Rob.
You want me to?
It's fitting. It's fitting.
Let me float something at you, brother. What if you draft Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, and you decide that your only other tight end is going to be Isaiah Likely?
What do you think? Yeah. So, like, what's the path to that winning?
So the path to that winning, hypothetically, as I make this up on the spot, because I did not prepare this, is Isaiah Likely still has some individual game upside, even with Mark Andrews, right? We'll continue this after our next pick, which is going to be gross.
Yeah, see, I hate this. The Hollywood
This
price
one.
makes me sick. He
Yeah.
goes anyway. I really legitimately don't like Calvin Ridley.
No.
I've talked myself off that. I had a little like mini crush on the Titans there for about 6 days
Like
or so.
3 hours.
Yeah. I talked just like you're about to talk yourself into this tight end thing. Oh,
Godwin.
Yeah, Godwin.
Godwin's great.
Yeah.
All right. So you draft Mark Andrews, your second tight end, you kick the bucket all the way down to Isaiah Likely. He has some standalone games. You have all of the tight end upside. Tight end gets dried up way faster than it ever has before.
It's awful.
Tight end scoring sucks to begin with. So all you're doing is locking in the tight end for the Baltimore Ravens, who really, 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 really like throwing the football to the tight end position a lot. Lamar, he does not have a soft fade on tight end. Lamar does not have a soft fade on tight ends. He has a
What's the opposite of that?
And he has a 35% exposure to tight ends or more, right? So
I like to call it a Johnny Sins. He has a Johnny Sins on the tight ends.
Yeah. So I would say like it's the one situation that I could see doing something like that and being comfortable with those being my two tight ends, the individual game upside already. The contingent value is through the absolute goddamn roof. You're not losing that Baltimore by quote unquote handcuffing. I'm kind of into it a little bit. I'm not going to say I'm going to do it often, but I might do it here and there.
I'm going to think about it. I'm not. The verdict is not in. I'm not pounding the gavel one way or the other.
There's no other team you can do it with.
And people will comp it to the running back, the idea of handcuffing your running back, and it's definitely different than that. I haven't figured out what I think about it just yet. I will say it's certainly more viable than like drafting Eli Mitchell with Christian McCaffrey. That is or Tyler Algier with Bijan. It's certainly much better than that. I need to think about it. I need to like go back and look at like some data and like, is he even out there running routes and stuff when Andrews is there and blah, 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 blah. But anything, if we can soft fade Rashad Bateman this year in a way that makes sense with an Isaiah Likely or something, then I'm totally down for that. I will say I do actually kind of like the Ravens even a little bit more as we're on the clock. Because they did draft Tez Walker, which I think makes for a kind of a fun, like 17th round wide receiver if you need one. What do you think? Break the seal on running back with Demont. We can go double elite quarterback with Burrow or Bowers.
I don't like double elite as much with Lamar.
I really like Jake Ferguson if we want to do that. Too late. I'm doing it. I didn't want to auto Demont just in case we didn't want him. But I do like I don't like double elite quarterback either, and that's I didn't really want it, but I know you've dabbled in that here from time to time. As of right now, though, actually Ferguson is one of the guys I'm trying to take a sizable stand on. I've been that's a take that I feel decent about right now. We'll see. But like all the Cowboys talk is all about Zeke versus Rico Dowdle right now. And I mentioned this on the show earlier today. I was like, I think the answer is just like Dak and the pass catchers. Like if the question is Zeke or Rico Dowdle, the answer cannot be either of those two guys in fantasy. It's like look, I know it's McCarthy and everything, but they slang that thing around last year on offense like crazy, and they were awesome, and it was because of Dak and because of CD and Ferguson, and they didn't add anything. And Ferguson was awesome for fantasy last year. He was, 1B to Laporta in terms of like best tight ends you could have taken. And he's just sitting here next to Deshaun Watson's tight end and Gardner Minshew's tight end. And, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I understand he's never going to be Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce or something, but I think he's a pretty good real life football player. And all they did was lose, no Michael Gallup. They drafted Brian Flournoy, who I'm not even sure that's a real person that they drafted in the draft.
Sounds like Winchester Tinville.
Yeah. What is that, Mr. Deeds? Yeah.
Wait, no, his last name is Florentin. That's what that is. Yeah, they feel like they've added nothing. Like their biggest add is Zeke, right? Like that feels like they're
correct
in terms of skill positions and stuff. What we're looking for.
But so they boosted the offensive line, but did not invest in the running game.
Yeah, they drafted Zeke.
Right, exactly.
They signed Zeke to play left tackle.
Zeke was an investment in the passing game, like because he's there. You don't look. Even the Cowboys, as say whatever we want about them, even the Cowboys are smart enough to know they're not going to win running the ball 25 times with Zeke or Rico Dowdle. But you sign Zeke because you know that, and you just say, look, fella, get back there and don't let Dak die, because that's the one thing he can do. Protect Dak and catch the checkdowns. That's all they really need. And Tony Pollard wasn't that great at that. He wasn't a great pass protector. He's fine as a receiver, but he wasn't a great pass protector. I doubt Rico Dowdle is. We would probably know by year 5 if Rico Dowdle was good at any of that stuff. So I'm just, as Dak is about to fall back to us, I'm pretty in on the Cowboys passing game.
Yeah, I totally understand that. It's probably a position that I'll be taking as well.
And so now Dak falls again. If we wanted to do that, Warren, Najee, I'm not going to do the Curtis Samuel thing again. Trey Benson. I should have pulled up my rankings because I don't know him. Anybody jumping out to you? Zach Moss, Chase Brown.
I think you want to go Pollard or one of the Pittsburgh running backs here.
Do you have a preference on Pittsburgh guys?
I like Warren a little bit, but it's razor thin, so I don't care as much. I just think that we don't want to go Dak here because
this is the running back tier, right? This would be going against everything I just said earlier.
This is the running back tier, and if you go another quarterback and then you start taking running backs, you still thin yourself at wide receiver by going
right.
Both double elite tight end and double elite QB. And that was a lesson. And this is why doing the big board was great, right? This is stuff that I was doing in the big board where I would do the 2. And even though I loved my first 4 wide receivers, by the time I get to my 5th, because I do have to start hitting that running back tier, my 5th wide receiver is, like Tyler Boyd levels of 5th wide receivers. And
yeah,
you start having the shakes and you're like, oh my God.
One thing I do like to do when I feel so, like earlier today, I drafted you be proud Mahomes team. I started 4 wide receivers, Mahomes, Pitts. Then I went to I did exactly what we're talking about here, or what we're doing here / talked about. Then I hammered that running back range. I started Najee instead of Warren, but I want to be overweight. Both they're definitely going to be somewhat pillars of what I'm doing in drafts this year, the Steelers guys. So, and then I'm like, just crushing that whole range. And so then I did start to, like you said, I did start to feel weak at wide receiver, despite the fact I started with 4 of them. But then when I get back to wide receiver, I think when people have the tendency when they feel weak at wide receiver to go to like the route run, the veteran paying for routes guys, the Van Jeffersons and the DJ Charks and all of that. I think you should go the opposite way and get to the rookies, because they end up running just routes as well, but they have the ceiling to be something far, far, far great, right? They have the ceiling to be Puka. They have the ceiling to be Zay Flowers. They have the ceiling to be rookie or Garrett Wilson or whatever. So like I double back for Roman Wilson and Javon Baker and of course Malik Washington, surprise. But like went back to that to polish up my wide receivers with some youth.
Yeah. Who do we like here? as well. And then I have something to add to that.
I don't like Chubb and Eckler, so I just want to put that out there. Zach Moss is going to be my highest ranked player right here by a good margin. It's Moss and Singletary.
Yeah, I like Benson too, but if you want to go with Moss, then
I really like Zach Moss. This is a nice blurb that I love a good underdog blurb that makes you feel better about yourself when you're clicking on the guy's button. You know, like if we clicked on Tank and it's like was just shot at a nightclub the other night, you're like, oh my God, I feel like that's the Fox incident. I felt cursed the moment that happened. You feel like the team is cursed when there's a negative blurb on there. But I really like Chase Brown too. The Steelers and the Bengals feel to me like I can give all the analysis in the world, and I have my stances on how I think those backfields shake out. But at the end of the day, I'm really wasting my breath, which I do enough as it is.
Fair.
I want them I want to have about as much of both Steelers and both Bengals as I can get, and let the chips fall where they may, because I don't think if either of them, even if it's a split 50-50 between both those guys in both those situations, they both can be valuable. If you hit on the guy where it's not 50-50 and they're the 75 or the 80, they are a smash. And if one of them goes down, then they're also a smash. And it's like, that's the fucking dream, dude, for a 10th and 9th and 10th round running back. Like, what more can you ask for on, especially the Bengals and an elite offense who throws to their running backs and their quarterback isn't sniping anybody at the goal line? Like, I don't know. I'm just drafting those guys.
I agree. One thing I want to bring up before we get too far away from it, just to hit on a point, like sort of the points we were talking about earlier with the quarterbacks and tight ends and stuff. I think something I'm going to do this year, and I'm only going to do it 5 to 10 times because I don't like taking 3 quarterbacks. But when I do a 3 quarterback build, I'm only going to do it with double elite tight end. So that's the way I'm going to play that particular situation. So it's going to be very particular when I do it,
because I don't want a single 3 quarterback and 3 tight end team. I don't want, like,
yeah,
for me personally, I don't want 3 of either if I can help it, but the world doesn't work that way. Right.
Yeah.
I would like to lose a couple of pounds around my waist as well, but God didn't make me a fitness total freak, and I'm 6 foot tall and getting older. It is what it is. There will be a time where I'm sure I'll feel in a draft that I need to take the 3rd tight end. But on that team, I don't also want to feel forced into 3 quarterbacks, because now what I have at running back and wide receiver, I'm so far behind the 8 ball, and then vice versa, right? I don't really want to take 3 quarterback, but when it happens, I don't want to also have 3 tight end on that team. All right. All 3 of these guys are here. I don't really want to do Chase Brown on the Zach Moss team. Do you prefer Devin Singletary or Brian Robinson? I'll let you choose.
That's tough. I think I like Singletary a little bit better.
Me too.
Weirdly, like I think they've shown that they're confident in what he can do for them this particular year, just based on the way they've constructed the team. I don't think they're looking at him long term, or I think they signed him and they're like, we're gonna beat the piss out of Singletary.
Which is great for us.
Yeah,
which is great for us. I don't. No offense, Devin. Like, you've had a nice career. I'm sure you're a nice guy, but like, I don't give a fuck about your career, buddy. I care about you making me money this season.
It's a 1-year game.
The depth chart behind Devin Singletary is Eric Gray, who I tried to make a thing last year for a hot minute. Spoiler, didn't work. Generally not great when you can't beat out the corpse of Matt Breida, who I don't think he's in the NFL anymore. Matt Breida. And then Tyrone Tracy, who turns, I believe, 25 this year, a rookie out of Purdue, who has like 180 career carries at the college level. So he's old and he never got the ball at running back. He's a converted wide receiver. He's athletic, so like he tested great, so people like fall in love. But like, forgive me if I don't think Tyrone Tracy is going to be the guy. The funny thing about Devin Singletary is like, we just disrespect him every year. Yeah. And all he does, every single spot, every stop, right? No matter where he is, he just takes the job, and he's good. And he's good every single year. And
one of my highest drafted running backs last year, because it was a clear, like I didn't think he was going to do exactly the way he did it, but he was the clear number 2 on the Texans, And if anything happened to Pierce, then it was definitely going to be Singletary's job.
And little did we know, it was a very much a Cam Akers Kyron situation where we were like, oh yeah, he's the clear number 2, and then week 2 gets here and you're like, oh no, he's the clear number 1 because the other guy sucks.
They call him Motor. like I forget who found out that little factoid, but that was his nickname. It's like, oh, so yeah, that's the dude.
So as we get up here, sitting on Lamar with Andrews and Jake Ferguson at tight end, 4 wide receivers: Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, DJ Moore, and Chris Godwin. Okay, and then Jalen Warren, Zach Moss, Devin Singletary. So we're obviously no tight end, but we're open here. I'm clicking Shakir into the queue just in case something happens because he's my top guy up here. Nothing super standing out. I know I should have had like guys queued up from the rankings, but I don't.
No, I think we should go wide receiver. So if Shakir is the guy you like, then
I would like to do Shakir.
Then let's do Shakir. There's something I'm hoping happens for our next pick, but I think the smart play was to go with our 5th wideout in that spot. And anytime we can bet against Curtis Samuel, I'm just going to do that.
And anytime we can bet against all of us idiots in fantasy being wrong about the order of this, uncertain room, right? The market has decided it is Kincaid and Samuel and Keon Coleman and then Shakir. And anytime I can say, wonder what happens when that's wrong. Shakir seems like a pretty good pick at 126 in that scenario.
Absolutely.
There's a running back I might try to sell you on a little bit.
There's a running back that I might try to sell you on that I think I'm going to be severely overweight on this year.
Oh, interesting.
So the pick that I did want to do, because I don't care if we don't get him, I thought Jaden Daniels would have been an interesting fit for this team, and I think you can still backstack him.
He's got 2. We wouldn't do it with Sinnott is an awesome backstack. If you need a late tight end, we of course don't want another tight end, but Sinnott is easily my favorite late round tight end. It's not particularly close.
Right.
And so he makes it. I also love just the idea of stacking your quarterbacks with your like these running quarterbacks with these tight ends, because if they hit their ceiling with some rushing in a game, it does kind of hurt the wide receivers sometimes, but it's easier for the top, right? Just if Lamar throws 1 touchdown and 200 yards, Andrews could still have a great game. But like, say Flowers in the 5th round ain't winning me probably much. If Lamar does that, there's just that weird kind of dynamic around it. And then especially if it's cheap quarterback who runs with cheap tight end like that, when they hit upside games together, it can be really, really massive. Not that I like stacking them with wide receivers too. There's just like the tight end thing. If you can hit 2 birds with 1 stone at tight end and quarterback, like it's really powerful.
Yeah, and this is kind of what we were talking about earlier with the tight end position just being so different. 10 points at tight end is a phenomenal week. Right? Like you love 10 points at your tight end.
That's what the tournament winners had last. Sam Laporte scored 11 points in the final, and that's like what everybody had.
Sucks. Yeah. I mean, it's a totally different position, and that's why I think we need to look at it that way. That's why you're not drafting 4 or 5 tight ends. Like, give me a fucking break with that. It's the reason that we are able to do the likely Andrews thing, in my opinion.
God bless.
My running back went, by the way.
Who was it?
Charbonnet.
I like Charbonnet. I think kind of new coaching staff in there.
Yep.
It's easy to just say it's going to be Ken Walker, but we can't say that for sure. I would feel reasonably confident, but Ken Walker is not some total untouchable talent to where Charbonnet comes in and steals that work. Sharp does those, like, he's very young man Zeke in that way, and that he catches the ball. He's big and strong and pass protects. So yeah.
Is your running back still here?
Yes, but I think we could probably push it a little bit, actually. Okay. I was gonna float Baker to go with Godwin as an option.
Mm-hmm.
Or we might just have to do that.
I like Baker.
I'm pretty in on Baker.
I do want. I almost. I need to think about it more. But with a guy like Lamar, or Hurts, or Allen, I might take some shots at some solo QB
Oh yeah,
teams.
I got no
going
problem
for
with that. I took Fields with them earlier to do. I like earlier today. I like doing. So I took Fields with Mahomes, but I like elite quarterback with nobody, or like take your Fields. Something, you know. Look, if it doesn't go well for Fields, so be it. You still have Lamar Jackson as your quarterback. You can survive. It's not what you're hoping for, but everybody builds it the opposite way, right? They're like, I can't take that risk because what happens if I only have one quarterback? And I'm like, I want to do the opposite. Like, I want to take that risk. And what happens when we hit the home run with both of them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
I
it's
think,
also just like, how much more does Baker like? And I like Baker for builds, but on the weeks that Baker outscores Lamar, it's just never feels like it's going to be significant. And once Lamar is gone, your team's dead anyways, right?
yeah,
Like that's just the way I'm kind of.
it's
I
just
don't
it's
know.
just a way to help get you like.
I know the two.
He can have those, and he can have those games where he does add points
for sure.
to your team. So
it could be a 40-point difference, and 40 points could definitely be,
mm-hmm.
you know, over the course of a season, the
Yeah.
bye week, all that.
You get the one bye week. You hope to get a 25 spot. You know, you 15 or something. Okay, hold on. 2, 3. We're at 2, 3, 5, 2. So obviously, running backs and wide receivers here. Was there any wide receivers that you're particularly interested in? Just I'm really in on this Roman Wilson price.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't hate grabbing Mims, but I don't want to be overweight on him. And he's a guy that in his position, I feel like we could accidentally be overweight on that guy. Right. So
look at the board. There's no.
That's my point. Yeah, exactly my point.
This is what happens to these guys. Michael Wilson, like, I don't give two shits about Michael Wilson, but then you run into this spot where you're like, I need a wide receiver. All I see on my screen is Michael Wilson and Marvin Mims and Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
And you know we ain't clicking Adam Thielen, so you end up clicking those guys. So it's the Roman Wilson thing where, like, okay, he was pick 165, you know, and we take him at 150. It's day one. The ADP could not be less meaningless. That's why I was making fun. Dilly, or I forget how you pronounce your name. You got to correct me again. But like, is a big ADP slave. He talks about it in the Discord. It's good. He acknowledges it or whatever. But like, I could not possibly care less about ADP on today. It was preloaded by Underdog. There are guys who are going to go in like the 12th round who don't have ADPs.
Yeah.
and like, it's not actual ADP. That ADP stands for average draft position. It doesn't mean just the number that shows up on your screen. It needs to be dictated by the market, where you need a few, like this hasn't even, it doesn't update until overnight, right? And it might not even update for 2 days. I forget the Underdog process. So I don't care what the Underdog ADP says. I'm trying to maximize for sure, like the overall upside of my team, but I would not worry about ADP right now.
Yeah. And to be fair.
So you know who I was going to pitch, right?
Zeke. Yeah.
Zeke. He also fit this team. I know we don't have Dak, but just little mini correlations, right? We have Jake Ferguson. Little mini correlations like that can be good. We have Zach Moss and Jamar Chase. Like, those little things are just nice little bonuses. I love doing siding with just those tiny little things, which is why I need to go back and log into my draft hacker, because they would show up in green on my screen. But
see, that's why we should have used it.
I know. I just didn't. I know. I need to. I didn't go back and log in. All right. So sitting, we need one more. I would like for this to be a 2-7-7-2 team. Technically, it could be 2-6-8. I'm not going to fret over the last pick, but we need at least one more wide receiver and some running backs. You got anything in particular that you like? I am back in on Kendre for what it's worth. I'm actually pretty excited about, if like he hasn't been a guy that is seemingly going much. You know, some of these guys, the ADP shows at 160, but they go at 115 in every draft, or 120. He's not one, and I think he should go a lot higher. You know, you like Bijan, but you can get Bijan's handcuff back here at Algier.
Can we see the RB list in general?
Yep. Gibson. I don't really like McLaughlin.
Let's get Kendre, and then I have
See what's
thoughts for
okay.
the next pick, but I think we can do both if we grab Kendre. Is my play here.
So the counter to this is a totally fair point. He says, I just meant I wouldn't have taken Baker there regardless of day one ADP because you had Lamar. So I only take a second QB when they fall. But like, that's fair in theory, but like we can't set up stacks. Like the stacking part of that's only accounting for 80. Like you're only thinking about ADP in that, and you're trying to suck value out of ADP because you're trying to get a faller. But like we talked about ADP is meaningless on today, and it's like other elements, right? We're always talking about pulling levers and micro levers and all that stupid, all our dumb phrasing. Stacking is one of correlation is just as big, if not a bigger lever than ADP. Baker, with the fact that we have Godwin, now we have two different stacks, right? That is a very important lever. And whether we got Kendre Miller or whatever running back that we were going to take there, like they're the same. It's
you also don't get Roman Wilson with Baker if you get somebody up higher, right?
Yeah,
so that Roman was like the best, in your opinion, and
in
probably mine, was probably the best wide receiver on the board still there. So I think that you pull that guy up so that you get both of the guys you want.
I agree.
I was going to suggest Herbert here.
Yeah, what do you think about him?
I've come around a little bit on Herbert. Like it's.
Is it because you think he's going to be the 2 to Swift, or because you think that's possible, but he also could get traded, or like, what are you thinking about him?
I think he's going to have some run. Like I'm trying to think of this offense and because I try to think like an NFL team sometimes, right? And
you should.
And a lot of people don't, to be completely clear. Like
right. This is how people can't understand that Zeke's going to play a lot. It's like, right. I understand he's bad. I would not have done what the Cowboys did, but guess what? You know why they did it? XYZ, and you got to think like them, right? Like, why was Kyron a hit? He's fine. He's a fine football player, but he was a hit because NFL teams care about shit that he does, and it doesn't show up on the RAS score.
Yeah. So my thought process is, what are the two most important things for the Bears this year? And they both correlate to Caleb Williams. It's keeping Caleb Williams healthy and making sure that he progresses as a NFL quarterback and he's protected, right? So Khalil Herbert has been around for a long time. I just feel like it's one of those situations where they trust him to be on the field with Caleb Williams. So I think if he doesn't get traded, there's going to be some run there, whether it's, short yardage situations on the field just for a percentage of the snaps. I don't think you want Swift on the field for 90% of snaps to begin with. No. Right. So, and this coaching staff is not the one that drafted Roschon Johnson. Right.
No. Right.
So, I mean, like, as much as I like Roschon and I think he's fine and he could still do something in camp, I just think for now I want to take some Khalil Herbert. I didn't love it. I'm still not like enamored with it, but I think it's fine, and I think it goes for a correlation with DJ Moore on this team.
I also think I like guys who I feel fairly decent or good to decent. I feel pretty confident Khalil Herbert's an NFL running back.
Yeah,
which is like better than I can say for some other guys, probably even guys I will draft. Right, that's the Rico Dowdle and Zeke argument. Both sides are making it. Ironically, the Rico Dowdle truthers are saying that Zeke sucks, and the Zeke people are saying that Rico Dowdle sucks. Which is why I'm like, let's just draft Jake Ferguson, guys. they probably both suck. Khalil Herbert, I think, is good, so he could just be good on the Bears. It's very possible. Good football players do that, but it's also possible the Bears have just decided he's not part of the future. That's why they did Swift, and that's why they have Roschon. In which case, there are other teams. We keep talking about the fucking Cowboys who could come knocking on the door and be like, "Oh, you're not going to use that guy? We'll take that dude." So he has outs, right? He has a bunch of outs. Worst case scenario, he's the RB3. That sucks, but most of these guys are probably going to suck.
Tez, right?
I was just going to say. So I had Gibson on here and he got taken anyway, but I was like, I think we need to go get Tez on this team.
Yeah, Tez. This feels like a Tez team. Are you going to take any Bateman at all, or are you just going to be done with that?
I haven't decided yet.
We got coach talk. We got coach speak that it's going to be a big year.
Yeah.
Lamar said he was a wide receiver 1 last year.
I'll never forget one of the last times I really fell for the coach talk. It was absolutely confirmation bias because I wanted it. I wanted it to be. Remember when Washington, the first year that Antonio Gibson was like the starter in Washington, and he was going in the second fucking round, thanks to all of us not you, thanks to all of us in the best ball space. I was in, baby. I loved Gibson as a player. Now he's got the projectable volume. He was gonna, he's a great pass catcher. He checks all these boxes. And then Ron Rivera said he's our new CMC, right? Because Rivera was from Coach CMC in Carolina, and I was like, that's all you had to tell me, baby. The new CMC in the second round. I'm in. Spoiler, Antonio Gibson, not Christian McCaffrey, was a horrible second round pick. Truly horrible. So every time there's coach
fade here. And then fade on Gibson here.
Yes, and Sean says Bateman got the contract. Although the contract is a smidge misleading. It was either they signed him to a contract because they didn't want to pay him what it would cost for the 5th-year option. So it's like, we don't want you to go away. We just don't want to pay you as much as what we would have to do to exercise. It was either let him be a free agent, sign him to the 5th-year option, which is a pretty hefty contract, or let's figure out a cheaper extension. And his extension's fine. I think it's reasoned, but like, I'm also so done with the follow the money thing. Like there's also coach speak and following the money are the most ridiculous things we do in fantasy that never work. It's total nonsense. It feels good.
I will follow the money when it's confirmation bias for me.
Exactly. Right. Just like when somebody tells me, if somebody tells me Malik Washington's the next Tyreek Hill, you bet your fucking ass that I'm going to be drafting the shit out of him. Okay. All right. I got a guy I want to float. I'm back.
Back. My God. We're doing this again. It's 2024, Erik.
You're goddamn right. We're doing this again. Oh, fuck. I thought we were on the clock. CY3K. I hope you're not an Evan Hull.
Dude, he doesn't want Evan Hull.
Nobody fucking wants
Evan Everybody
Hull. He's a white running back.
Up when you start up Evan Hull in the 17th round.
No, this is what people watch, this disgusting draft stream stuff that we do to get me to talk about these absolute losers who go in the 17th and 18th round. But seriously, I do genuinely believe, if you're getting to late rounds, he should be in the mix for your late round running backs. Everybody talks about winners and losers and shit from the NFL draft, and they don't name like a lot of the really actual big. It's a lot of the times it's backup running backs or start right. Zamir White was a winner, like Dylan Lobb or however you say his last name is like fine, but he's a late round pick who's really just like James White, or his ceiling case is like James White. So like Zamir survives. But you have the backups, right? Ronnie Rivers died, so Evan Hull could fly. Like type of a situation. He is the backup to JT. He was gonna play a lot before he got hurt at the beginning of last season. He's a pass catcher, and yet like big, sizable. Like people always talk about like who's this year's Kyron type thing. He's not this year's Kyron in that he's gonna take over for JT, but he has the archetype to be a workhorse if something were to happen to JT. And I think it's possible he's like the pass down back as well. He could be nothing, but like, welcome to the 17th round of April Best Ball Mania drafts. They all could be nothing. I think he's like a legit good pick though.
Yeah. And think about to your winners and losers thing that people don't talk about. Kenneth Gainwell, gigantic loser in this draft, huge. Right?
Yeah.
Michael Wilson, dust, right? Like Michael Wilson absolutely murdered with that draft, I think. Although
it's okay. It was expected.
Yeah, I mean it was expected, but still.
But yeah, they're never going to throw it to him. Yes.
Yeah, so it hurts players like that. The Carolina backfield becomes an absolute goddamn mess to try to figure out going into
Miles Sanders. You want to talk about a loser? Holy shit! It
just
is
follow the money, Erik.
Yeah,
he had a lot of money.
That's a great call. That is a great call.
So Miles Sanders, I will not follow the money with. Other guys, I will folloll the money with.
Yeah, it just depends on what my take was before.
Yeah, Curtis Samuel, not following the money. Not following.
Yeah, he didn't get. He was okay. His contract was okay.
Good enough.
I would like to take a 7th running back on this team for those listening. Lamar, Baker, Jalen Warren, Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, Kendre Miller, Khalil Herbert, Evan Hall. And I'll get to the other guys later because we are on the clock. But I would like to take another running back. I got a few names. Has there been anything back here that you've thought about so far?
No, because this is my first draft, Eric. So I haven't thought about.
You didn't do one earlier? I thought you.
No, I haven't done any draft. I did the drafters draft yesterday.
Yeah.
There is a guy I kind of like.
You're gonna hate this one too.
No, I don't hate Tank. I actually don't mind Tank at all.
Talk about another winner. We were drafting this fucker in like the 12th round last year.
I don't mind.
And he's in the same spot. I know. Look, I drafted a bunch of him. I'm well aware of how bad he was. No one needs to explain it to me. But you want to talk about a winner from the draft? It's Tank Bigsby. He's the backup to Travis Etienne, and second year. All the narratives we love to use for these guys that probably suck, but we use them all the time, right? He got a year under his belt. He was bad last year, but the team's gonna ride with them. Second year, you can break out in your second year or whatever. I think he's a fine, totally fine. He's going to be in my mix for sure in the last rounds.
I like CEH in the 18th round too. Just they didn't add anybody. It's someone
I got a Chiefs take you might like because you don't like CEH, but you like the Chiefs. Remember last year when we got the Deneric Prince hype that obviously never turned into anything, but we got the Deneric Prince hype there for a little stretch. Undrafted undrafted. Yeah, I mean, we got a full like 5.5 days. We got a soft fade of Deneric Prince for a little bit from Andy Reid, but you know who that's going to be this year because they have an undrafted rookie free agent running back. Imani Bailey is his name, from TCU, that I kind of liked a little bit during the pre-draft cycle. Like not anything special, but just like I thought he was like noteworthy if he went in the 6th round or something like that to somebody. And then obviously he didn't go in the 6th round, but he landed on the Chiefs, which is how I think about guys like him, why I'm even bringing him up. Why Kamani Vidal is like interesting at the end of drafts is they land in good spots, right? So Imani Bailey's in a good spot, but there's nothing in front of them that is prohibitive at all, right? When CEH is the roadblock to you making the team and maybe even getting on the field, that I'm down to take shots on that. I understand it can be a 0. I understand Kamani Vidal can be a 0, but when the corpse of J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are the only thing stopping you from getting on the field, like I would rather bet on that than like look at the Jets. Brees obviously is the man. Braylon Allen, Abanikanda, and they drafted Isaiah Davis. It's like, why would I invest in any of those fuckers? Because like they're not going to usurp Brees, and even then, are they ever going to be a workhorse? No. Do I even know who the backup is? No. At least these other guys, it's like, I don't know. They could just be better. Like it's legit possible he's just better than CEH. Is it likely? No. But I just think those situations are noteworthy.
I actually think that Jets take is super like informative and a way to look through that team and just talk about later. I don't want to get into a whole Jets discussion, but just fading their backups feels like the way to play it.
What's the payoff? Like,
there's no payoff.
There has to be a payoff where the guy becomes like really useful to invest in the backup. And like, I'm not sure that that's ever the case for any of these guys, specifically because like you kind of need to become the man, right? Like, why do you draft CMC's backup like Eli Mitchell in past years? Is because I know he's going to be the man when CMC's not out there, right? We used to draft Pollard behind Zeke because he becomes the man. I think Evan Hall can become the man if something happens to JT, right? That's why I'm drafting him. Of course, that could be wrong, but the Jets, I don't even like see a way in which any of them becomes the man. And I don't know who it is. At least if I knew who it was, I could accept that there's risk that he might not be the man, but I don't even know who the next man up is. So like, that's such a hard bet to make, right? You need to have one of those things. You need to know who it is, or you need to know that, all right, even if it might not be him, if it is, he's he's a smash, right? That's kind of Kyron. It was like, we thought it was Akers. At first we didn't know. Is it Kyron? Is it Zach Evans? Is, whatever. But we were pretty confident whoever is next up that they're going to be awesome. So it's okay to make that bet. If you don't have either of those things, it's like, dude, we can draft. There's plenty of other running backs to draft.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to think of that. I am going to make sure I implement that going forward too.
Sorry, Billy. Be back Wednesday. We'll be back Wednesday. That'll be it for this evening. You got, I know, Hometown Ghost Stories tomorrow. I got the lab tomorrow, which has worked out really well. Join the Discord on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We started doing kind of like hangouts just to talk strategy, and there'll certainly be tons now that Ball Mania and these tournaments have dropped. It's been really, really fun, actually. A lot of us just kind of collaborating, spitballing about ideas, strategy ideas, player take ideas, things like Rob and I just talked about, with backfields and all that kind of stuff. It's totally free. You just got to be in the Discord. I'll send you everybody an alert when that thing goes live and a link to join. And then Wednesday, we'll be back at the same time, 7 p.m. Eastern, me riding solo for a Drafters NFL Best Ball Championship draft. But what you got?
And then Sunday, we have Sunday Sickos, which we were supposed to have yesterday, but Underdog bamboozled me. I thought they were going to drop the draft on Saturday, but we'll be back this Sunday. We'll be doing most Sundays. There is going to be a Sunday I miss towards later May because I have to go do a convention. But yeah, we'll be doing Sunday Sickos every Sunday, that is our relaxed atmosphere draft, right? We jump in there, we draft a team, we have music going, we talk about the draft, we talk about not the draft, we talk about random shit sometimes. I was talking about last names last time and how people who have an S on their last name, it's just stupid. It's the dumbest thing of all time. So you can go hear that rant.
There had to be something, along the way in human, I don't want to get up. You can run into issues being politically incorrect, but something along the way in, societal evolution happened that they threw S's on the end of names, because that doesn't make any sense to me. Why is there S's in plurals? What happened? Now I'm going to go research this. I'm going to be on the Google machine figuring out how some of these last names came about. It reminds me, I'm almost done with a rewatch of The Office. It's like I'm going to sleep. We popped the gummy, so I get some good chuckles before I go to bed, rewatching The Office. And I just redid the episode where Andy gets his heritage. He does the 23andMe or whatever the hell it is. And the gal, she's lying, but she says he's related to Michelle Obama, and he's all excited at first. And the whole office is like, this means that your family owns slaves. Right? Like it was just reminding me of that. Like, how did S's get on the name? There's got to be something fucked up, because everything is driven by something fucked up that humans did along the way. That's all it had me thinking about.
Yeah, I feel like it was someone that just had no quick thinking, and they were like, William, what's your family's name? He's like, Williams. They're like, oh, all right, idiot. Fine.
Right. Like, there's no Beimfohrs out there. There's no Coakleys out there, but there's Williams. It doesn't make any sense. So anyway, I'm sure everybody really needs to hear that before we got out of here. But I'll see you guys tomorrow in the lab. See you guys Wednesday. Rob will see you guys Sunday. And check out Hometown Ghost Stories tomorrow. We'll see you later. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.